Good evening. I'll call to order the Board of Education meeting for Monday, June 8th, 2026. Do a roll call, please.
Tisha?
Here.
Bridget?
Here.
Tracy?
Here.
Mark?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Ann?
Here.
And Aaron.
I'm here. I'll verify that we have a quorum present. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please read the school board mission statement.
Working together to ensure high levels of learning for all.
Thank you. Kristen, was public notice given?
Public notice was given to the requesting news media. The agenda was posted at the district office and on the district website.
Thank you. Were there any revisions, requests for revisions to the published agenda?
No changes.
Seeing none, I'd move to approve the agenda as published.
Second.
Motion by Tisha, seconded by Brian to approve the agenda as published. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. We do not have any requests for public input on tonight's published agenda. We'll move directly into some recognition items related to donations.
We would like to share our thanks and gratitude to the following people that provided donations. $1,000 from Robert George for school supplies for Irving Perch Elementary, and $1,381.75 from Northern Hills PTO for 5th and 6th grade field trips. Thank you.
So while these don't require board approval, they're nonetheless very much appreciated and very thoughtful. So thank you to those donors. We'll move into informational discussion items and start with scholarships. And we welcome back for the last time Ms. Bridget Hubbard. Bridget, I'll open by saying thank you.
Absolutely.
For all the dedication that you've offered to our district over so many years. I don't know what this will look like next year without you, but I know that Jared's got a plan.
There's a plan in action. We've had people in learning a lot this year, and they all know my cell phone number, and I'm planning not to travel during the months of, some people tell me January, February, March. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see. Tonight, just to share with you, I usually like to pull out a few things that might be different, something that might be a trend or something that happened that's unique each year. And so I have 4 items this evening that I think I'd like to bring to your attention. If you compare reports, although they look very similar, you will see that our dollar amount total is up significantly. We can attribute that directly to 2 scholarships. We did have a military academy appointment to West Point, and we also had a very large ROTC scholarship this year. So again, taking those aside, knowing that those are very, very special and very unique scholarships that come around occasionally. For us, I think Jared and I talked about this, for us kind of a lot more often than perhaps we are thinking about, but again, those are significant boosts to that total number. Secondly, one thing that we wanted to work on is to really take a look at our total number of applicants, getting back to somewhere, making sure that we were kind of between the 40 to 52% of the students in the class applying for scholarships, knowing and understanding that scholarships are not just for someone attending a 4-year school, that we have 1-year and 2-year scholarships for individual students. And we did hit that goal. We were at 44%, or 102 total applicants of the students in this class of 2026. So again, we're back to our 2020 and before numbers. Trends in scholarships happen, and a couple things happen. Typically, if there's an economic downturn in an economy, it takes us about 2 years to see that in the scholarship realm. So in 2008, we saw not an effect of the economy until about 10, 11, and 12. We're starting to see a little bit of our post-pandemic numbers settle down a little bit. Our state specifically our state technical college and state university systems, used some of their pandemic relief monies to actually say, hey, students, why don't you stay home, stay a little bit closer to the area, and give our in-state students more scholarships. Those numbers are going to start to not be there anymore because that money has played out, and we'll see that tapering off as well. The last thing that I'd like to bring forward really reflects that last part of the report. I think that all the numbers kind of mixed together in terms of years. I think this was our 18th year that we separated scholarship night and awards. And that awards program, which is held on the seniors' last day with the entire student body present, so all students can see what type of awards are given, has really grown. This year, 247 names were called, understanding that some of those names were multiples. However, the program has really expanded. I've had several community members, typically parents, are attending that on Friday mornings usually, with their students being seniors. And they said it was really cool to see because oftentimes we really get tunnel vision. If our kid is in music, if our kid is in sports, if our kid is and we tend to get to know those folks and you kind of wonder, gee, what are those other kids actually doing? And to see them walk up because that student became a certified nursing assistant or they became an EMT while they were still in high school. So the industry certifications addition to the program has really made that blossom, and it's really showing that there's lots of different opportunities for students, and it's not just about always the academic awards or the athletic awards or the music awards, but there's a lot of different things that students can be doing. So those were just some highlights that I pulled out. If you have any questions or anything else, I certainly can go over that, but it was kind of business as usual.
I don't have a question, just a thank you. One final opportunity for you to be here tonight. It's just amazing to me, the impact that you have had on so many students, the lives that you've touched over so many years, and the effort and passion you put into this, and the awards night, and then bringing that all to us who don't get to see it all the time. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you for all the years that you've been here. Thank you for all the lives you've touched, my own kids included. And I'm going to say don't be a stranger, but thank you very, very much for this. This is always an impressive report. Love to see how many of our kids are moving and shaking and doing great things. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a great opportunity. So again, I never expected to stay 32 years. I was staying a few and seeing what else, where the grass was greener, but it just meant a new house on, in a different part of town. So again, it's been awesome. And just around the table to see the number of students that are sitting here, former students that are sitting here right now is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Bridget, thanks again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, team will move to board reports, and this is a new agenda item for us. We'll have two reports. We'll start with Tisha with an update on the recent CISA 4 annual meeting, and following that, Mark will provide a committee report from the board Finance and Operations Committee.
Sure. So thank you. So I was honored to be the representative at CISA 4 last week for their annual convention on June 3rd. And so it started with two presentations on relatively new programs that they have. The first one was the Special Education Induction Program, and that's a special partnership program with DPI that provides education, training, coaching, and networking support for new special ed teachers in their first 3 years. So sometimes it's people that are new to the district, sometimes people fresh out of college who are just now starting, sometimes people new to Wisconsin, sometimes people getting their provisional licenses, or who have provisional licenses who are working towards that degree in special ed. And it's provided at no cost to the district, which sounds amazing that they're able to provide this extra support and training, and again, that coaching and networking support with other people who are going through similar things. And so they provided an update on that. In the past 3 years, they've had 61 participants. So this is, again, a partnership with the DPI across the state. They've had 61 people of the past 3 years, and they have a really great retention rate. It's something like 86% of them are still teaching special ed in Wisconsin. And so it sounds like it's doing really, really well. And a lot of districts are taking advantage of that. I talked to Lori, and I know we've sent at least one person to that program as well, and they've gotten really good feedback. The second presentation was an update on ALPS, which is the Alternative Licensing Pathways program that started actually during my first term when I was on CISA. They were just getting that going in 2022. And this is for people who already have a bachelor's degree who are then wanting to get a teaching license. It's a 16-month program, a combination of online coursework, field experience, and some seminars that they get together, I think, once a month or so during those 16 months. And so they've had 10 graduates since 2022. It seems to be, again, a convenient way to get people in the field who are interested. So anybody can apply, again, anybody with a 4-year degree. If there are community members listening, or if we have staff in the district that don't have that teaching license, applications for the new cohort are due, I think, August 3rd. So again, another great program that CISA is providing. We elected the new Board of Control for the 3 members whose terms were expiring. La Crosse County, the only eligible seat was for La Crosse, the La Crosse School District, and they have like a standing seat, so we weren't eligible, or I wasn't eligible as an Onalaska rep. But we elected 3 new members for that. And then after that, Paul Fisher, the director, just gave an update on the annual report and all the services that CISA provides. Everything from, it's too many things to list, but the annual report is available online, everything from business services support. They do the youth apprentice programs, crisis intervention training, principal coaching, the WISH program for safe and healthy schools, which is a lot around mental health support, innovative education programs, and more. So lots of different things that CISA is involved with in supporting our schools, and I'm just really grateful that we have access to that.
Keisha, thanks for representing us at that session, the annual meeting. Team, any questions for Keisha? Mark, we'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Well, we just had our Board Finance and Operations Committee meeting, and with this meeting, we had some representatives from the city engineering department, city administrator. So we had a really good discussion about 2 topics. One is off of our field and where we have our maintenance building, and the city's building there for the well. They want to expand that very proactively, actually, to deal with any PFAS that the city may have at that well. So great discussion. It was great to sit down with them around the table and figure out what they need and how that's going to work out for us. The other topic was out on our French Road property. The city wants to put a water main across part of it. Apparently, there's going to be a whole lot of development out in that area, residential development, and actually for the commercial development that's going to be across the highway, apparently they're going to need to have a little more of a water system resource there. So that's a little more of a complicated project they'll have to talk about and figure out how we can maybe help them out there.
So I think both framed as preliminary discussions that would potentially in the future come to the board, correct?
Yes, yep. Certainly the committee will come to some conclusion on what we might want to bring to the full board and take it from there.
And we also discussed the referendum, possibly looking forward. So
Yes, we did.
start
Yes.
just keeping that on the table.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, thanks to Mark and Brian for attending that along with me. So, any questions from Mark? All right, we'll turn it to you, Ben.
Yes, thank you. So, we are pleased at Onalaska Middle School to share with the board that all 196 of our 8th grade students are being promoted to 9th grade. And we wish this class the best as they enter high school. And I'm sure 4 years from now, hopefully they'll have as impressive as a resume, with scholarships and awards as the class of 2026.
as someone who attended that, I thought you and your team did a really nice job recognizing the students and sharing that moment. So well organized and nice to have it indoors on that night. It was warm in the gym, but I think it was a lot warmer outside. So.
I heard the following day that there was a problem with the chiller, so hopefully next year, if you want to come back, it'll be better.
I'll think about it.
Okay.
Jen Kalis will share results from the recent 5th, 8th, and 12th grade student exit surveys. Turn it over to you, Jen.
Good evening, everybody. Oh, and bless you. Hi, great to see you again. I'm wearing a different hat tonight, one of my many, so I'm happy to come tonight to give you a little overview of our student engagement, growth, and achievement. Look through the student exit survey, the Life at School for 25-26. And I'm going to make sure I'm in charge and I know what's going on next. Happy to start to report that most of our students in that 5th and 8th grade were able to participate this year. And you'll see some of the numbers there. I think there was a little glitch at Eagle Bluff with one of the technology pieces, so we didn't get quite that many, but we had at least 50% or more in all of our schools that took the student survey. I think what's important about this is as we look at some of the data across the next few slides, we can really be rest assured that we have a good representation of our student body as a whole. And one of the things that our study was looking at was that amplifying student belonging and engagement. And so the student survey, the Life at School, was showing that in comparison to last year, we were seeing some trending upwards in terms of how kids were feeling at school. And that was going from that 3.8 to 3.9. That's pushing us towards that target that we've had of the 4.5 out of 5. And so it's really positive to see that moving and trending in that way. First, we'll just take a quick look at the high school, their summary of Life at School results. In general, you'll also see that there's a very high number of students who feel safe and secure at school. They also feel strongly that teachers treat them with respect and that they have high expectations for them. This is similar and actually trending a bit upwards as we've looked at in the past as well. And then to kind of continue that trend, when we look at elementary and the middle school, we see again a lot of students are reporting that they feel safe. They feel comfortable talking to somebody at school, that they can be themselves, and they know that their teachers care about them. We saw a small dip in the area of I could be myself at school, but when you kind of consider that going from elementary to middle school and all that comes with that, that's pretty typical of what we were looking for as a whole. So in order to dig a little deeper with the data, then each school had listening sessions, which included administrators here at the table today. I was able to join a few, and then student body, the students, there's a cross sector of them, usually 8 or 10, and we conducted the listening sessions where we asked them, again, a variety of questions and to perhaps dig a little bit deeper. I really enjoyed it because you got a good sense of not just the numbers, but understanding how safe and successful kids felt at school. So with the question, what makes you feel safe at school? In general, we heard trusted adults, having good peers and friend relationships, knowing teachers care about you. And we even had a couple students mention they feel like we have good safety plans and measures. They specifically were calling out like the frosted glass in some of the areas of our school, which I thought was pretty specific, and it was nice that they noticed. One of the themes from how do you know that your teachers care about you, we heard a lot of students say that both from 5th grade to 8th grade that teachers were taking action to show them that they cared, and they gave a variety of examples. A lot of discussion around making learning fun and engaging, helping us, and they don't just yell at us if we do something wrong. That was listed as well, too. So we heard in general some wonderful examples, and actually some people here might want to expand afterwards, but we heard some very specific examples of how students felt they knew their teachers cared about them, and that was really sweet to hear those. So just a couple things that came out of the listening sessions that, just put a bright spotlight on some areas of growth for us. The reason that most of the elementary school students felt like something interfered with their learning was the same across the board. Distracting students or behaviors in my classes. And when we heard from the listening sessions, that was a variety of things from maybe just a kid fidgeting next to them all the way to kids leaving the classrooms. But that was a common thread throughout. The getting nervous before tests and the can't keep up with homework or didn't get enough sleep was a little bit more typical and in par for what we were seeing in the past. And from middle school and high school, distracting students and behaviors for middle school as well was one of the things that was interfering. And in high school, that balancing homework, the extracurricular activities, for example, the sports and clubs and musicals, because there's so many wonderful things for kids to choose from in Alaska. But that balance, we heard, can sometimes be tricky for students. So some of the themes that came out of this section, like what distracting behaviors really interfere with learning. And again, there were some specific examples, like students who maybe inappropriately are using those little fidget toys, students leaving the classroom frequently, and they noticed that sometimes adults don't actually act on the distracting behaviors or the behaviors that students felt were distracting. What would make it easier to balance homework and co-curricular activities was asked of the older students, and they said teachers collaborating more about tests and projects and big assignments, and then to make sure those assignments are truly meaningful to the learning and not just busy work. Kind of back to look at what the data was saying, that the statement for most days, I like my school. We noticed that students said, it's already a 9 or a 10, keep doing what you're doing, which was great to hear. A few of them said, this is the best school district I've ever attended. And they really appreciate the additional offerings that they have here. As you can see, most students felt like they liked their school. Just 2 slides here that are looking at cohorts. So when I was working with Lish on this PowerPoint, she had noted that we're looking at the data from the last grades, 5th graders that now are 8th graders. And you'll notice that most of those target points are very similar and still showing a lot of positive results in terms of feeling cared about, and following the rules, feeling safe at school. And then in terms of, this is our first time to be able to track up to 12th grade. So when we look at that cohort, we would notice also that most of that is trending upwards in terms of feeling safe at school, students following the rules, and feeling comfortable talking to somebody if they had any type of bullying behavior or concerns. So some of the key takeaways that students really value our schools, we heard a lot in the listening sessions and of course from the data that students felt like cared for by our staff and in our buildings. They really talked a lot about feeling that sense of belonging in their classroom and community, that they appreciate collaboration and working together in homework and meaningful learning ways to do things together, and then helping that balance with homework and extracurriculars. And then again, they mentioned some about the distracting behaviors continuing to be an issue. And what we wanted to sum it up, although there were so many things we could have reported on, as our summary takeaway, as heard at one of the senior sessions, I've attended many other schools, and this is definitely the best one. You guys know what you're doing. So that gives a quick summary of some of that data that was collected, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but there are several people at the table here that were even more involved than I was, and I'm sure if they wanted to expand, any of the principals would be a good time to do that too.
Team, anything to expand or any questions from the board?
I have a couple questions, but I can wait till they do their thing.
Why don't you ask questions and then maybe we'll expand as you
Okay.
answer them.
Okay, sounds good, thanks. So it sounds like we have a lot of really great things going on, of course. And I was just wondering, not everything had a comparative value, so has this survey changed in some ways from years previous, that like there aren't as many trends, like, or are there certain goals around some of these things, like most days I like my school, like is there a target goal or anything like that?
I'll let Kelly speak to that. You
Can
look
help?
like
Yeah,
you're-
I can help. So our score on the strategic plan, like on that is based off of a compilation of that high leverage question, which is the most days I like my school, as well as just an average of some of the other scores that have been consistent questions. I would say to answer, like, we don't always have up the data. We could pull the report if that's something that you're looking for, but we don't always have the data because it's a different group of students each year, so it's hard to compare from year to year the data, right? Because it's very personal data about like their personal experience at school, so it's hard to compare year to year, which is why we have those cohorts, because technically that's pretty close to the same group of students that were in 5th grade that then answered the same questions again in 8th grade, if that makes sense. So we don't always compare year to year, but we were able to pull some cohort data that compared the same group of students, if that makes sense.
Yeah, awesome.
I guess I just had a question too, for any of the principals or Jen. You know, the one question, I could be myself at school. Can you expand on that? As I was looking at this earlier when we got the agenda, what does that mean?
Well, one thing that came up in the listening sessions a lot was around, and it may have kind of crossed over in some other questions too, but was about this feeling of belonging and friendship circles and opportunities for kids to connect. So I think that was a major thrust of, at least of our conversations at Eagle Bluff, was about feeling connected, and that's one of our values is belonging. So I think that's good that kind of keeps coming up and keeps in our focus, and I think maybe that will be a constant in trying to make sure that we are looking out for ways for students to connect in the school. So that was one thing I know specifically that came up.
Yeah, okay, Todd, thanks. I don't know, Jen, did you have anything to add to that particular?
I think what I was hearing was really consistent across those 3 elementaries in particular. And for the younger students, I can speak to, I think some of that was coming out in maybe more so the age group of feeling safe about what they're going to be saying, or would they be ridiculed? And I am imagining that's the same at middle school and high school as well. But I wonder a little bit about that question, if it felt a little loaded for kids. That was just my perception.
Yeah, thank you.
Mark, one of the things that came up at the high school was the idea that as you get older, you feel more of a pressure to, quote, fit in, and whether it's in clothing, whether it's in views, whether it's in this or that. Some of the students talked about would love to see some of their cultural values infused within the school with some traditional Hmong dress, for example, and other things.
Yeah, okay, great, thanks.
And then my other question is, I always love to see the results of these surveys because I think it's very important that we give our students a voice. So I have to say I appreciate that you guys take the time to try and get as many kids involved to take these surveys. So then the next natural step was there anything obvious that you thought, oh, well, we can make this a quick win, or we can improve upon, which I assumed was going to come next anyways?
Well, I had the opportunity to sit in on all of them, and it was outstanding, and it was just a great experience. So strong work to our district for doing this for several years. I think that every one of those meetings there was some items that were listed that were low-hanging fruit that we felt like, boy, we can tackle that. There's some simple things, right? I mean, Abby's not here, but at IP, there's a few tips that they wanted for the playground, right? And just so happens this year we're doing some work out in the playground, so we were able to take 3 or 4 of those suggestions, and we're going to make it happen. I mean, from lining Foursquare and where do they want that. I mean, there's some simple stuff like that, and that's easy stuff to do, right? But then there's some more complex things, and I think with every school, the principal, they had their list. They were taking notes, right? And we do that for a reason. We want to hear their voice. We want to continually improve. And so, yeah, everyone came out of that with a list, kind of their to-do list on things that we want to improve. And I think we all agree that we want to increase the opportunities for students to share their voice, because ultimately it's their school, right? So I think that we want to continue to find more opportunities for them to share their voice in our schools. And hopefully we will show you that we're doing that here in the future.
Yeah, and I just think it's awesome, people say, oh, you want my opinion, but are you going to do anything about it? And so even just that brief amount you shared right there shows that the teachers and the staff are listening, and they're doing something about the feedback that they're receiving. So that's what I wanted to highlight.
Tracy, if I can just add, being newer to the district, one of the things that I was so impressed about was not only bringing the students to the table, but in the manner that they really, and I don't actually know all the details about who was chosen, but at each one I attended, was very sure it was a cross-sector group of students. And, they came to the table and they had their little nameplates and things. And when Mr. Barton would say, this is your school and this is really important, we want to hear, you could just see them sit up a little bit, and they were very, very transparent. It was really, really powerful to hear it. It was a really cool experience. I was glad to be a part of it.
Thank you for sharing that.
My question is related to that, is how were students chosen, or how did they opt in, raise their hand, and who participated?
I had 3 students from each of my 5th grade classrooms, so I had 9 total. I had the teachers choose. I asked them to just send me, a variety of students from their class. So I had probably about half male, half female, multi-cultures represented in the group.
Same for us.
One of the common questions that I think every principal, or we had intertwined, and we kind of ended with this way, is, I think there was a number like, we said, well, what would it take to get this up to a 10? Or, I don't know, I like my school, or, I like coming to school, or whatever that question was. And then they were able to, that prompted them to say, okay, well, these are some things that we think that you can improve on to get it to be a 10. And that was helpful too.
Mm-hmm.
I would just add that one thing that's always on ours, and I think it was 60% balancing academics and co-curriculars and jobs. One student had, I think, the most insightful, mature comment I've ever heard, in which he shared, I think you need to normalize, Mr. Schaffner, that, we have to be in school. State law says you have to be, so you might as well do the best you can, whether that's A's, B's, C's, you just do the best you can. You do the co-curriculars because it makes everything else more fun. If you don't do the co-curriculars, you're missing out on a lot of fun. And so normalize, you're doing this because it's fun. And finally, I need money, I need a job, and that's part of paying for college in the future. It's also paying for stuff now. And he said, so yeah, this stuff makes you busier, but you also have to normalize this as part of what life is about. It's more rich, it's more full, as if you do these other things beyond simply show up. And I thought it was just a very insightful, mature comment.
I can also just share too, like when I look at the survey results, I know something from Northern Hills that was continuously on that list of things that impacted student learning was feeling hungry, and it didn't show up on our list this year. And our teachers have been really strategic in adding extra snack times throughout the day for students. And so just some of those things, like you see it in the data changing, and so then some of the things you're doing are making a difference. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Really appreciate that. The conversation after the report was great, Jen.
Yeah.
But like the conversation afterwards,
Yeah.
that point you just made, Kelly, like really kind of drew it home, and Jared's yours as well, really very like high impact statements, so I appreciate that. Let's turn to the family experience survey and ask Lori for.
Yes, more survey results for us to share. It's that time of year. So as part of our strategic plan, the last 3 years, we have asked families also to complete a survey. And really the whole focus is to look at our Pillar 2 objective of fostering meaningful relationships among family, school, and community to ensure access, representation, and voice. I feel like I have an echo. No?
There is an echo.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit. Thanks. So there are two, well, if you remember before I get into the actual slide deck, there's two reasons that we have articulated that we collect this information. One is that we've made it part of our scorecard for the district for the current strategic plan. And the second reason is that we've always used the results to look at the next year at each building and then develop goals both at a building level and a district level, again, on how can we impact these results and focusing on how can we improve. So there's two enclosures in the agenda. One is a very detailed report of all the data. There's a compiled part that is the entire district results all put together, and then it's broken down also by each building. But the second one that I'm really going to focus on in the second enclosure is a summary for this presentation of the results. So Emily, if you want to just go on the second slide. Emily's driving the ship for me here. Go back to the second slide. There. It's kind of I put all the summary into one slide. So if you recall, our survey, we've used the same survey for the last 3 years. There's 17 questions on the survey. It's a scale of 1 to 4, 1 being strongly disagree, 4 being strongly agree. We don't have a middle ground intentionally so that we're able to really analyze this data. Some of the overall takeaways, the response rate this year was almost exactly the same as it was last year. The last 2 years was significantly lower than the first year we did this. We've had some conversations too around sometimes when you survey people too frequently, maybe they choose not to participate every single year, so maybe timing how often we survey families also is really important. So just to take that into consideration. So our response rate this year was 449 families, which is still a great representation of our families that are giving us feedback from all of our different schools. Some of the things to think about, one of the things that we focused on in this survey, if you recall, is that we looked at the demographics of our families and our students, and we looked at the people that responded to the survey, and really what we're trying to do is make sure that all voices are represented. And so the only way we can do that then is we ask the respondents also, what's your ethnic group, and do you speak English at home primarily? And when you look at the results, or what language do you speak at home, and when you look at the results, and this is very consistent with what we've had previously, we still continue to have an underrepresentation of our minority ethnic groups and non-English speaking families. So just keeping that, because that was kind of our pillar, not just kind of, it was part of our pillar to make sure that all families are represented. So continuing to focus on that is an area to work on. Overall, when you look at all of the questions, and like I said, the first enclosures really has all the data in it, but if you do, because there's 3 years worth of data in there, and even by each building, but also by average, when we put it all together, there's not a real significant difference across the questions, across the 3 years of data. So we're getting, first of all, shows us that we're getting really consistent and reliable data, I would say, and also that we've got really overall positive results, which is so good to see. Sometimes it's hard when you start thinking about, well, what goals can we extrapolate from this data in order to improve? And I know we've tried lots of different things, and to see sometimes that it's still consistent, A, it's positive, but B, it's also like, okay, well, maybe we didn't impact it like we wanted to or should have. The second, third slide there, this question, it's number 16 on the survey, is different than the rest of the questions. It's not a rating. It's asking families if they're willing to share what difficulties or what areas of difficulty has your family experienced in the past year. And so when we look at this, again, the results, 3 years worth of results, very similar across the board, and the similar areas of difficulty is rated as high for the more families rated. Mental health concerns, academic difficulties, and attendance still are at the top. Those have been at the top 3. Mental health needs has been at the top across the board for the last 3 years. So I know we've done a lot of things in the district to help with meeting the needs of our students and families in the area of mental health and how that impacts academics. Oftentimes, we didn't limit it to like one area, like you can only pick one. So many families picked more than one. What I thought was interesting is that I think it added up about a third of the families marked at least one area, some marked many. So they're still showing that there continues to be a need in our district in lots of these different areas that we can have some impact on. The fourth slide in the deck is, if you remember, on our scorecard, we have two measures in Pillar 2. One is around the overall score on the family experience survey, so I'm putting everything together, where did we score? But the other one is that high leverage question, I would recommend my child's school to a family who does not currently attend here. And so the next two slides are the elementary schools, the last 3 years worth of data of their high leverage question. And you can see pretty consistent, little up, little down, but pretty consistent across the 3 years. In middle school and high school, again, a little bit of increase in the middle school and in the high school, but really pretty consistent across the board when you break it down into that high leverage question by building. So the last slide on there is our actual district scorecard update. Again, the two different areas we've measured across the board is that high leverage question. So if you put it all together, we're at a 3.57 out of 4. So for the second year in a row, we've exceeded our target for the end of strategic plan, which is great. And then our family experience survey overall results, when you put all of the data together, was a 3.4 out of 4, which is a little bit higher than last year, again, trending up. So good data. What I think is important one thing I wanted to mention is the last 2 years that I've reported out these results, I've also reported out the community survey results, which we do to the entire community, another survey. That we just closed, I think, last week, and so we'll report those results out at a different board meeting, but we did do that survey also to try to expand a little bit more to community members and try to get some more information about how we're doing as a school district on the community survey. We use the same questions as we did the last 2 years on that one, too. And the other thing I think is important to know about Pillar 2, it is family and community engagement. Next year, under the new strategic plan, it would be Pillar 3. So we split Pillar 1 into 2, and then this would be Pillar 3. But for this year in particular, we didn't do as much scaffolding down to the building levels for this pillar, because if you look at the goals, if you go back and look at the goals for Pillar 2 this year, it really was around increasing our communication with families, with community. Nick and Ben have been very busy with expanding our newsletters to families, to the community, to our staff. And really it was focusing on increasing our social media, our website use, less connected directly to the family experience survey. So we wanted to put some closure to this part of the strategic plan, but it's a little less connected this year with the goals for this pillar. Does that make sense? Any questions around that information? Sure.
The comment, I think it was back on slide 2, where our non-English speaking families are probably disproportionately represented in survey results. And I should know the answer to this question. Maybe I feel like I should. Do we offer it in an alternate language?
Well, we do, but more than anything, we offer support in taking it.
Sure.
If, for example, our Hmong families sometimes we don't have it in Hmong, we don't have the survey in Hmong, but we have interpreters that will help them take it if they so choose. But yes, or Spanish is the other one that we have interpreters that will help families take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lori, can you remind me, have we done focus groups with families as well as kind of a follow-up similar to what we do with students?
We do, or we have. We didn't this year. Yep, we have. With parents that we've brought in.
I thought I remembered that,
Yep.
but okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good memory.
Yeah, that was one of my questions as well, because I do remember that happening. I think I even participated in it once upon a time. The other question I had was around the slide you had mentioned where people had reported things like food insecurity or transportation issues. I can't remember at the end of the survey, do we have links or resources available?
What is available at this survey in particular is that if you want someone to follow up on the survey information that you shared with you, you put in your contact information, and then every building principal knows that they need to follow up with that.
Okay.
Those families.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Other questions?
Looking forward to hearing the community survey.
It may be Nick that's presenting it.
Oh, great.
We've been working together on it, and Ben has been too,
Yeah.
but, yep.
Any other questions, team? Thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
Okay, team, we'll move into action items, and we'll start with item number 15, the second reading of the high school handbook. Turn it over to Charlie.
Thanks. Yeah, in summary, for the second reading, there were no major changes proposed, but again, just to highlight, a couple of the pieces from last meeting, the 15 minutes to 5 minutes for the tardy, trying to increase that class time for all kids, and some other pieces with co-curricular tied to a tardy policy. And I did just rearrange, as you see there for the second reading, didn't change any of the contents necessarily, but just kind of the order in which they read, defer back to the table that was from board policy to help it clear it up just a little bit more. So that was my proposed change, just some reordering of things, and again, just a summary from what the big changes were from first reading.
Thank you. Team, any further questions for Charlie?
I would move for approval of the high school student handbook as presented in enclosure 15, high school student handbook.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Tracy to approve the high school student handbook for 2026-27 as detailed in or found in enclosure 15, high school handbook. Team, any further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? As approved. Charlie?
Thank you.
And the broader team for work on that. We will turn to Ben to present the updated strategic plan.
Okay, so strategic plan, this is a culmination of about a month or two ago, we had 60-plus community members, stakeholders come together to revisit and to review what our next iteration of our strategic plan would be. We had a draft of that was presented to the board for review, and we had a development session that we had an opportunity to review and have some Q&A on. There was a couple of items that the board had asked some members of the board, myself, Tisha, Bridget, and I did spend some time reviewing that, and we did send the board a copy of what we came up with as a result of our meeting, and I think that there was some strong work done. The biggest change was we did take some language that was in Pillar 5 related to the community's understanding of finance and operation. We felt like that was more appropriately placed in a public engagement portion. And we did move that language to be in that pillar, which I believe is pillar 3 now. So that was really the biggest change, and then we did modify some of the language yet in that pillar 5 just to make it more easily understandable and focused on what we wanted it to do. So I'll end my commentary and ask Bridget and Tisha to fill in any gaps and entertain any questions. And we're hopeful that the board will approve this so that we can take our next steps administratively to move this along.
Yeah, I'll just touch base on the couple of the things that we touched on when we met as a small group. So Ben outlined that we moved the second bullet point under family and community engagement. That was previously under finance and facilities operations. It better fit under community engagement because it really is creating content and helping the community better understand how school funding works. So that's a big goal. And we felt like that would be something that could be measured on a scorecard. Under the finance, facility, and operations stewardship, we simplified the language, kind of restructured how the sentences were put together. But overall, we wanted to keep all of these in line with what was set the day that we had the room full of people at OMS, where we had 12 plus hours committed from community members, students, staff, all sorts of folks. And we didn't feel it was appropriate to change too much language because so much thought and care had gone into that. So this is what's being presented for approval this evening.
I think it looks excellent, and I do appreciate that, moving that second bullet point to family and community engagement. I think that's very important.
I'm very impressed, and I super appreciate the extra time you guys took in evaluating that and making sure that everything is clear and in the right place so it's easy to manage and monitor. So I appreciate that, guys.
Anything to add, Tisha?
No.
Any other questions?
Well, I think Lori hinted at it, or didn't hint at it, said it. We now have 5 pillars rather than 4. I think we saw in that first iteration of the plan 5 years ago that pillar 1 was really gigantic. And while I think everyone around the table did a really good job of tackling that, I think this identifies more specifically, more visually, the importance of both pieces of that pillar. So I think it's a good step forward, separating those out and adding that 5th pillar.
This is on for approval.
I would move that we approve the presented updated strategic plan as outlined in enclosure 16 and detailed tonight by that smaller committee that met.
I'll second, and I would like a roll call, please.
Motion by Ann, seconded by Bridget to approve the updated strategic plan as detailed in enclosure 16 strategic plan. Any further questions? Give a roll call vote, please.
Tracy?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Tisha?
Yes.
And Aaron?
Yes. Great work on that, team. Thank you. Are there any requests to remove items from the consent agenda for separate consideration?
Seeing none, I would move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Tisha to approve the consent agenda as presented. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is 2. The Board of Education will now entertain a motion to convene in closed session pursuant to section 19.85, parens 1, C, and or F to consider and discuss the superintendent's performance evaluation data. The board may take other related appropriate action in closed session. The board will adjourn from closed session.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Ann, seconded by Brian to convene in closed session per the rationale as read by myself. Any questions? Yeah. Can we have a roll call, please?
Brian?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Tisha?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And Aaron?
Yes. We'll convene in closed session in 5 minutes. 7 o'clock sharp.
You guys did like a beautiful job. Like,
Yeah.
so good.